Sister Karin can add.
I just wanted to share with you the ILO has been doing tremendous work on domestic workers after adopting the ILO Convention in 2011. And they came up with an estimate on migrant domestic workers of around 20%. But we know that it is increasing. And of course you also have to take into consideration that these figures are, as Vicky already said, it's very difficult also for the ILO to obtain. So there is a lot of internal migration, of course, which is not covered in this. And maybe even some kind of regional migration in Latin America, for example, and also in African countries, Vicky, you will see. I mean, I'm not so sure if this is really covered well by the government. So Vicky explained all the difficulties, but the ILO dared to came up with a number, and that was 20%.
Then, Karin.
Question here, Magnus from Sweden. In countries where most of the economy and workers are in the formal sector, what is the strategy, what is the way forward to formalize the work of the domestic workers?
Good question. That's why we have this recommendation 204. How do we formalize the informal sector, and specific for domestic workers? One of the issues which we have been advocating, or in most of the countries, is the legislation. But the legislation can be there. Ratification can be there. Now, how do we formalize? That's why, right now, when you ask a domestic worker, what do you want to have in place? What would you like to have? They will say salary. Now, this is included, others will say contract. Others will say social security. Therefore, there have been some positive trend on formalizing the informal sector, especially in domestic workers, when it comes to making it real. And we are saying Convention 1 and making it real, so that it changes their life. And that's what we are saying, formalizing. And therefore, we are talking about the minimum wage, which has been the cry of domestic workers. And you can see in some of the countries, now they have the minimum wage for domestic workers. If I can cite, like in South Africa, they have a minimum wage for domestic workers, and they do have increment every year. In Namibia, they have a legislation for domestic workers, and they have the minimum wage. In other countries, they have also social security. I think Akaffou will share with you. They have a social security scheme, which also domestic workers are beneficiaries. They have contracts. Some of the domestic workers, they have contracts. And for a domestic worker to have a contract between herself and an employer, which is being enforced. And that's what we are saying is formalizing the informal sector. Maybe I will give a chance to Akaffou to share with you how Social Security is benefiting and how they are contributing to Social Security, which is very, very difficult. But in their union, they've tried, and now domestic workers have access to Social Security. Akaffou.
Merci. En ce qui concerne mon pays, les expatriés, les gouvernants, ceux qui ont un niveau élevé de vie, déclarent leurs travailleurs domestiques et les envoient à la sécurité sociale. Mais le nombre ne dépasse pas plus de 18%. L'employeur paye 70% et l'employé paye 30%. Dans le contenu, il y a la protection à la maternité. En cas d'accident de travail, tu es prise en compte. Et tu as la retraite, les 3 choses. C'est tout. Parce que le SMIC, au niveau du SMIC, les travailleurs de la population générale disent qu'ils n'ont pas assez de moyens. Eux-mêmes, les travailleurs en général, ne touchent pas le SMIC. Donc, ils ne se voient pas en train de payer un travailleur domestique au SMIC. Je vous remercie.
Hello, I'm Ray from Denmark. I have a question. If you are being assaulted as a domestic worker, can you go to the police?
Oui, nous avons la possibilité de saisir la police, la gendarmerie, et nous avons l'inspection du travail. Mais d'abord, quand tu es violenté, il faut aller faire constater ça à l'hôpital. Par exemple, si c'est un cas de viol, on te remet un document de preuve, le médecin fait un document et tu vas à la police. Et ils vont convoquer l'employeur. Mais le plus souvent, les travailleurs domestiques ont peur de perdre leur travail. Donc, ils ne le font pas.
Hi, my name is David and I'm from Sweden. When you talk about employers, do you talk about the company hiring domestic workers or do you talk about the housing you work for? Thank you.
Les employeurs, c'est là où ils travaillent, pas les agences de placement. Chez nous, les agences de placement sont de façon anarchique et ne sont pas formalisées. Moi, je peux me lever et créer une agence de placement de façon informelle, sans papier. Et ils font le recrutement. Dès que vous venez prendre une travailleuse domestique là, vous payez quelque chose. Quand vous partez avec la travailleuse domestique, tout ce qui se passe dans le domicile, ça ce n'est plus leur problème. Et maintenant, nous avons décidé, en Côte d'Ivoire, dans mon pays, de les recenser, les former, les aider à comprendre la convention qui protège ces travailleurs domestiques-là et leur donner l'occasion de formaliser ce secteur-là. Parce qu'il y a des personnes qui se font passer par des travailleurs domestiques mais qui ne le sont pas. Et qui commettent beaucoup de délits dans les maisons. Merci.
I think this is a roundup because we have unfortunately another meeting at 1 o'clock. So I give the floor to one of our participants.
Thank you for coming
and thank you for your testimonies. How is it like to be a domestic worker? I think it gives a life to those papers that we read, and when we follow up, hopefully, the birth of the convention and the recommendation of against violence, harassment in the world of work. So I really hope that we get that convention, that it also reflects on the position of the domestic workers around the world. I really hope that. And in behalf of us here in Geneva School, just a small thank you and all the good luck for your important work in your organization and personally in your life in the future. And just to say, like in my card, it's power is not given to you, you have to take it. And together we are stronger. So in solidarity, thank you so